Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to buckle your seatbelts. The market's going crazy. But that fits in perfectly because all of us are here too. Mike King in Las Vegas, Charles Moskowitz in Boston, and myself here in lovely Port St. Lucie, Florida. It's time for Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research. And a very pleasant good morning to you guys.
How are you? Good morning.
Doing well. How are you?
Okay.
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 Yeah, okay, considering the market is cratering right now, but hey, what the heck?
Yeah, it was down about 120.
Yep.
Free market. It's now down 60.
Yep.
So it's come back. Well, now it's down 80, pardon me. The oil is up over $2. The gold is up $25. We actually bought gold puts this morning on the gap up, as was carried in the letter. This 1420 area where the gold is up against is, an area that has turned it back down several times.
Uh-huh.
Last is 1419. The silver is up almost 60 cents. We're positioned. We also, yesterday afternoon, right before the close, ended up buying some S&P calls, out-of-the-money calls, and they're down about 40 cents. So, not too much damage here. And there are some bright spots here. But everything just went to hell, at the end of Mr. Kerry's kind of non-speech.
Yeah.
Everybody should be, he's right. Everybody should be appalled by what happened. But I don't think that when you're in a position of power and you're one of the main decision makers, I'm sure he didn't want to show his hand, but he didn't even deal the cards.
Not exactly the brightest bulb on the planet.
Well, he is and he isn't. I mean, he was the senior senator up here and, very well respected. He's, not incompetent, but I think that, the public wants not only the information that they can see on every single news channel day and night, but some sort of this is what we're going to do kind of statement. And clearly that was not to be had.
Yeah. Well, by the way, we have to announce to everybody that this is a no-freeze zone on Money Info at Princeton Research. All of a sudden you have that weird thing happen to NASDAQ, and then all of a sudden you've got Direct Edge talking to Bats Global Markets that they're going to come up with yet another market. What in the world's going on?
Because Bats did such a great job when they brought their initial public offering out that by the end of the day they had canceled it.
Yes.
In case anybody forgot about that. The thing is, the NASDAQ has a very strange attitude, and that is, we'll tell you what we want to tell you when we want to tell it to you.
Uh-huh.
Because when they had Bob Greifeld on the next day, it was, we saw the problem and we asked for it to be administratively shut down. And, we solved the problem in a half hour.
And we rebooted.
And then it took us 3 hours to, talk to everybody, except, of course, the public or the news outlets.
Sure.
To reopen. I mean, the open is always kind of an issue because there's so much overnight pent-up demand and the futures and everything else. And, I can understand that, but 3 hours, not so much.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, absolutely crazy. And you just think, okay.
I thought things were just slow.
Yeah. Well, actually, there wasn't a very heavy volume that day, was it?
No.
Yeah, that's weird. That is weird.
No, the problem though is that 20% of the S&P is NASDAQ stocks, and so how do you deal with the ETFs if you don't have a price? I mean, all you have is the last price. Now, on a day like that, on Thursday, it didn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
because things were so quiet. I mean, for the entire 3 hours, I think the Dow had about a $20 range from down 8 or 10 to up 10 or 12,
Right.
further than it had when they had the stop. So, I guess using the last price worked out. But, what if there were news?
Right. Right.
What if Kerry spoke on Thursday instead of yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very. It leaves the public very shaken by the fact that they don't know, and whenever you don't know, you always figure the worst.
Sure. Yeah. Michael, housing prices, how are they in dear old lost wages?
They're growing. I mean,
Growing,
they're getting
yep.
higher.
Yep. Ours are too here. And, of course, Case-Shiller came out. Everything rose in the 20 largest cities 2.2%, which basically is cumulative, 12.1% over a year ago, the previous June. So pretty good news. What about Boston, Charles?
There are a lot of sales going on here. I see it. I'm not that sensitive to it out here in the sticks, but things seem to be pretty firm. The Consumer Confidence Index was out this morning too.
Oh, what happened there?
It was up.
Okay. Well, that's a good sign, I guess.
Not overwhelming. I guess they were looking for about 79. I think it came in at 81.5, which is, okay.
Well, you guys really in the Northeast didn't have the housing bubble that Michael and we had in Florida, where, by the way, we're up 14%, which, I'll tell you, nobody on the Treasure Coast is complaining at all. So
yeah, I wouldn't think so.
No, it's.
Good morning.
Hey, Casey. Casey, how are you?
Late, had stuck on the call.
Hey,
I'm doing pretty good.
Hey, well,
good.
we're just talking about housing prices. How's it going over across the state in Tampa Bay? The housing
particular area that I'm in has had an unbelievable 2-year run. I don't.
2-year
I'm an
run.
Economist. I don't. Yeah,
Wow.
it's just the last 2 years has been. I would say that within the last 2 years, the housing prices in this small, micro area we are in, probably gone up 70%.
Good God.
But it's got to be leveling out. I mean, there's just no way that it.
Well, that's because Casey's neighborhood is the same as the title to an old Ken Auletta book, which was "The Streets Are Paved with Gold."
Yeah, that's right.
Let me tell you something. I live in a neo-Nazi neighborhood. I've never lived within one of these areas where they have guards at the entrances. It's absolute. If I had known this, I can promise you, not only would I not have bought the house, I probably would have burned it down in protest. I just cannot deal with these Nazis that drive around in their golf carts taking pictures of your house. You know what? I'm going to set up a little sniper.
Oh man, you obviously have a problem with homeowners associations.
Oh, I've never had to deal with them before.
I have news for you. There are areas up here where they have not a homeowners association as such, but a town planning board, Hingham especially, where you can only paint your house one or two colors.
Oh, that's what this is.
We have the same
homes.
thing.
Frankly, the homes are historic, and they are 200 years old, and I get that they want the main street in Hingham to look a specific way, but if you're not painting it white with black shutters, you're taking the historical society to court to paint it a different color.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you trying to tell us that Alice Cooper would have a problem in that neighborhood?
Probably.
Oh man. Yeah, we have the same thing in our neck of the woods in St. Lucie West. Yeah, the different colors and stuff is not too cool. Not too cool at all. Well, Casey, what's happening in your world, your business? We're getting close to football season, so we think about you often. Actually, our football begins Friday night.
It does. It does. We are we're just at the beginning of it. I think I briefly went into. I was having a lot of technology issues last week, but I started to mention that we went and we did the shot with the commercial shoot with the model. It's unbelievable. I did not bring my normal production crew. I was referred to somebody out there, and they were just terrible. And the footage we got from them was awful. It's stuff that we could probably Band-Aid back together for internet use, but nothing that we would ever use on primetime network. So we went and got did some football footage, and now we've got a really great shot. We're supposed to have network approval today. Then I could kind of put it out there, and next week I'll be able to talk about it. I just hate putting it out to the world if the network has any problems with any part of it when I have to change some things up. But it's great. It's relevant right going into football season. It's just some great shots of a running back blowing up a couple of linebackers. It's really good stuff.
Interesting. It was funny. We had the affiliates night for the Jacksonville Jaguars on Saturday night, preseason game against Philadelphia Eagles. And being on the field, and keep in mind, I spent my entire adult life, it seems like, doing that. But these guys are so big now. The Jacksonville averages 333 across the line, and it's like, Carol and I are standing there on the sideline, and these guys are maybe 10 feet from us. And you look at them, and you just think, my God, how'd you like to feed these guys? Holy
the size
smokes.
of them is unbelievable. And when you think of the size disparity between a DeMarcus Ware and a Jones Drew, you're talking about 200 pounds.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
It's like running into a freight train. I don't know how they stay alive.
Jones Drew was doing some running drills behind those guys, obviously, and he looked like a peewee football player, and he's not a small guy, but I mean he is. But it's so funny to see, because you are right. It's a massive poundage difference, and
look at Ray Rice. What is he? 5'8"? I don't know how he stays alive.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. It's amazing. But getting back to your nutritional products, that's why we take Tsunami, right?
It is. Well, we certainly take it to be stronger. We don't take it to put on weight. Protein is really best for that. Yeah, and you know what? I've talked ad nauseum about my son and his athletics. The basketball coach wanted him, because of his height, wanted him to put on 10 or 15 pounds.
Oh boy! So
I called my brothers up at Rutgers University, and they know Anthony extremely well. And I said, we got to put some weight on Anthony. We need like 10, 15 pounds. What do? I don't want to just feed him donuts. I do that for myself.
Oh God!
And they said,
you don't eat donuts.
You know what? There is not and this is terrible. I take supplements, out the kazoo. And I work out every day, but that's my vice. And I don't drink, I don't smoke. That's my vice in life. There is not a brownie or cookie that'll make it out alive if I'm around. But,
man!
So they said to me, here's what you do for your son. He's only 11 years old. They said, give him Tsunami because it has creatine monohydrate in it. That will help with gaining strength and increasing muscle mass, and then give him protein powder. They gave him a whey protein concentrate and casein blend, like a 75-25 split, and have him weightlifting. And sure enough, within a month, he put on 10 pounds. So it does. We're taking Tsunami, because of the formulation in it, it will put on muscle, for sure. And that's been proven through double blind.
Well, and muscle is heavier than... Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
Muscle is heavier than fat, yes.
Yep, makes sense. Wow. Interesting. Wow. Okay. Oh boy! Well, that's amazing. Well, Michael, how are you feeling now? I know you work out all the time, don't you? Hello, Michael.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure. Yeah.
I was just checking with our guest. Our guest is going to be Tim Connolly. He's the banker. For Texas Gulf Energy.
Okay, sounds good.
I was just checking with him. He'll be coming on in just a couple of minutes.
Cool. Okay.
Half past the hour.
We're talking about your workout habits because Charles says you work out all the time.
Well, yes. It's real tough. I've tried qualifying for the Senior Olympics and I didn't make it. I mean, it's amazing. People at my age are much stronger than I am, but I keep on trying, and so you got to keep every muscle in shape. I mean, really, I work out on something every day. I mean, some muscle every day.
Really? Wow, that's amazing.
But it's tough, keeping your body in shape. It's a job.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. It's it's been a while for me. It's funny. It's once I stopped playing, boy, it was like it's a struggle. I just have to get out and walk.
Well, I'll tell you, what helps me more than anything is a tsunami, and I'm not saying it because I'm a part owner. I'm saying it because it's a phenomenal product.
Yeah, well, that's
you ought to try it. I mean, it's just an amazing product.
Yeah.
And that would even taste good.
There you go.
And I have what everybody said didn't taste good, and I love it. It has a lot of ALA in it. I don't know what I'll do when it's gone. I'll really suffer. Having the new product, I like the old one with the alpha lipoic acid, which has the burning, but it doesn't burn anymore once you get used to it. It's just phenomenal.
So, Charles, are you still racquetballing it?
I played this morning.
Play this morning. All right. God, you guys are all so active. It's amazing. Makes me sick. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Beat him 3 out of 5.
Hey, there you go.
Actually, I beat him 3-1. So.
What, did he forfeit the other one? Is that?
Nope. We just didn't bother to play it.
I see.
Down 3-1, you got to play to 7 in order to, have him be able to make a comeback.
There you go. All right. Wow. Good stuff. Interesting stuff. Well, let's Casey. What about numbers on your illustrious tsunami company here? How are sales going, marketing wise? How's it transpiring here as we head into the fall?
Everything is going well. I'm not exactly sure what I should or can give out. Outside and around the quarterly earnings. I can tell you that particularly with the seals and their movement, we're growing exponentially in sales volume. So things are looking very, very good.
And you're talking Navy SEALs there, right?
Yeah, the Navy SEALs.
I didn't think it was the animal.
No,
we tried giving it to penguins and it didn't work.
The one on the Shark Week commercial.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, I don't think so.
They're a week to be a seal.
Yeah, really. Oh my goodness, wow. So, boy, that would be cool if those guys are taking it. You better believe it's going to be good.
That's they have. It's interesting. It's such a small fraternity. There's only, I can't remember, 200 SEALs, yet they have a higher defense budget than the entire U.S. Marine Corps. And because of their eliteness, whatever the SEALs do, like if the SEALs have a pair of gloves that they are using and think are pretty cool, then the Navy guys want it. People want it. And then the Air Force, and then the Army. It just kind of spreads, but it always starts with the Special Forces and kind of works its way through the rest of the ranks. So we're certainly starting with the elite.
So do we have the same arrangement with them that most of the defense contractors have with the Pentagon? I mean, can we charge them $400 a bottle?
Or more?
It's certainly an interesting process. I really hate to comment on that too thoroughly, but I will tell you it's somewhat of a counterintuitive process.
Uh-huh. Yeah, hello NSA if you're recording this show. Oh, yeah.
I can understand how they paid $900 for a hammer at one point.
Are you trying
It's a hell of a hammer, though.
Yeah, right. Are you trying to say the bid process is a bit confusing?
The system is heavily flawed. I'll tell you that, and there is plenty of room for unscrupulous people. We went through traditional DoD DSA process, but there's plenty of avenues and room for people without scruples and morals to make a very, very handsome profit through the government. Reaching the debt limit in October is not a surprise to me.
Yeah.
God.
With the way that they spend money.
Gee, thanks a lot. I really am encouraged by hearing that.
Yeah, I've got a good friend who he makes those masts that you hoist up to do data shots, and he sells those to hunters, for example, and a hunter might pay $900 for it. He also sells them to the government through a contract with Raytheon, and the government pays $6,000 for the same exact piece of equipment. Exact same piece of equipment. There's an example of how it works.
Oh man,
Poorly.
Not well. well for the business owner.
Yeah. Well, hey, this healthcare thing may work out quite well then. Yeah, depending on which part of the healthcare you're in, huh? Wow, unbelievable. That is amazing. Holy smokes. Well, while you're talking about that, we can talk about, of course, Charles is an expert at this, Tiffany's profits.
Yeah.
The world's...
Bottom line was good, but the top line was disappointing.
Everybody's top line has been disappointing.
Come
As
on,
far as I can
Michael.
see.
Not Brown Shoe. Look at Brown
Well,
Shoe.
You're talking about one out of dozens. I mean, the retailers, all the top lines were terrible. And those tween retailers and the teen retailers that we talked about 3 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago all got slaughtered last
Yeah.
week.
Let's welcome Tim Connolly.
Well, thank you, Michael. Good morning.
Hey, the man
Good
is
morning.
back. Hey, good morning, Tim.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody today?
Hey, we're doing okay. How are things at Texas Gulf?
Things at Texas Gulf are just fine. They're moving along. The company's making progress on several fronts. And even better, we're getting some rain in Texas, which we badly need.
Well, actually, yes. I mean, that whole... Boy, I'll tell you, you go look all the way up to Canada, and, it has been dry as a bone in the West.
Oh, the whole middle of the country is just suffering terribly. Now, it is good for projects when we have men out, and I say men, that's not sexist, because we don't have any women welders. There aren't many of them out
Why
there.
not?
But it's just not a career choice you see many women make, Mike. I don't know why. Well, I suppose we should investigate that more fully. But the dry weather, of course, is good for construction projects. But the heat and the lack of rain is really, really tough on a lot of communities. Texas, as you pointed out, the whole middle of the country, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas,
Yep.
the Dakotas, they are all suffering. But in terms of Texas Gulf's core business, their businesses, they're consistently seeing more inquiries now. 2014 is already developing a backlog of requests from customers. And historically, this business actually slows down in July and August. Many times decision makers are gone, vacations, things like that. And the business is consistent with what it was last year and consistent with its recent disclosures. The company is continuing to get out there and bid on additional business. The requests for proposal are very, very frequent these days. And we believe that 2014 is probably going to be a pretty good year.
Boy, that sounds great. Sounds real good. By the way, the National Organization for Women's online too. They want to have a chat with you. No, I'm just kidding. That's. But
hey, I was raised by a single mother who had 3 kids from the time I was literally 3 weeks old on her own. So I understand the strength of good women and what they contribute. So,
well, that is interesting, though. That obviously, you would obviously hire them if they were out there, and they're just not. They haven't chosen that career yet. But
no, we do have some female engineers.
Yeah,
we have female project planners. We have more on the technical side of the non-trade side of the business. There are definitely more women, and very talented and very good at what they do. In fact, the very best salesperson in the company is a woman named Tina, who is just a dream come true. I wish we had 50 of them just like her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. They're starting to do, obviously with the new school year, surveys on how many of the incoming freshmen are women. And, it's very interesting to see that, in a lot of the major universities, there are more women coming into the system than there are guys.
That's true. And, in fact, the graduation levels are now something along the lines of 52 to 55% of graduates are now women, which has turned around from 20 years ago.
Yeah, not a surprise at all, though. Well, the guys are athletes, so enough said. No, I'm just kidding. But, it is interesting because I saw something about engineering schools that, there seems to be they're either equal or maybe even a hair above the men in engineering schools all over the United States, which, as you say, just like your company, they're the brains.
What we're actually starting to see too is in the year and a half since I've been involved with the company and been an investor in their mergers and acquisitions person, do their merchant banking, we are now beginning to see technical schools who we have been begging to put out more tradespeople, more welders, more pipe fitters, more millwrights, are now starting to get more people through the process.
Okay.
In Houston, we now have full classes of new welders coming. Now, unfortunately, in the type of business that Texas Gulf does, much of its business is in the refineries, the chemical plants, the very most demanding customers of all, the Exxons, the Shells, the British Petroleum, and they don't allow brand new welders into their facilities.
I'm not surprised.
It's creating a stream of talent that will help alleviate the shortage that there is out there in the market today of really good, skilled trades.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, wow. Tim, this is Casey. I just got a question. I briefly talked to somebody within your industry a couple of months ago, and you kind of didn't really answer it. But why, if your shortage is in skilled labor, why would you not just go with a union and have all the laborers that you want?
Well, because one, you don't have all the laborers that you want, and two, the union package, for instance, on a skilled welder in Houston, Texas, the union package is about, we pay the same as what unions post the hourly wage is, which is $28 to $32 an hour, except what they put on top of that is an $18 to $20 an hour benefits package, which makes them completely and totally uncompetitive. And so you literally, you're not going to win any bids if your rough cost is $50 to $52 an hour, because the bids run in that range, and that includes profit. So
if I'm an oil company making $1 billion a quarter, I mean, I would certainly. I'm just looking at from the oil company's perspective. They're making more money than they know how to spend. I would rather pay up. You're right. You do pay more for labor union, but you do get a higher quality person. You do get a more reliable person, and you're right. They are happier because guess what? They have health care.
I would respectfully disagree with you.
Yeah, me too.
I get
I've
to
done a
see
lot of work
hundreds
with
of
unions,
these,
so it's not
the
flying.
because I see hundreds of skilled people every day, and I see both union and non-union, and that is simply not true. It is not true that because they're in a union, they are more skilled and more dependable. For instance, we
Maybe
have
it's because I'm in
Filipino laborers who can do the most meticulous, difficult welding along areas that we can't even get other people to go. We can't get.
We can't get them in the country. You can't get them in the country. So what good are they? They've shut down the visitor work visa.
One, we already have some in the country, and two, we have in certain areas. We still have some here, and we have the opportunity to bring them in certain skill sets. But you can't make the blanket statement just because someone's in a union, they're better than a non-union member. It's not true.
I could be sheltered because I'm in Florida, but in Florida, the labor is absolutely the worst on the planet. I mean, you can't get somebody to cut down a tree, let alone weld a pipe. So if you do need somebody in Florida that's of competence, you really just can't go into Craigslist or the help wanted section.
I'll tell you, Casey. Yeah, we're in a strange state. Just leave it at that.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
Well, what's wrong is we wouldn't hire people with those skill sets.
Yeah.
We're in Florida then.
Yeah, stay out of Florida.
We wouldn't be able to put anybody to work that didn't have 3 to 5 years of experience in a refinery. They wouldn't even let them on the site. If you have someone with less than a year of experience, in many refineries they have to wear a pink helmet because they're considered to be a safety risk, and they want people to know that they've got an inexperienced person in the refinery. Most just say no, but there are a few that do that.
So, Tim, where do the guys that, say, are in the trade schools now in Houston, where will they go? Do they go to, like, some of the smaller oil companies first and then get their feet wet?
They will get to they'll go to work in fabrication shops.
Gotcha.
They'll go to work. They will actually get a chance to do welding probably on some pipelines and under the supervision of more experienced people.
So it's more like a
apprenticeship.
First couple of years of like an apprentice.
Yeah. It's
correct. That's correct. That's exactly what it is.
Wow. Okay.
And they are all getting jobs. They just have no problem at all getting jobs. And they're entry level. A brand new one coming out is going to make anywhere between $18 and $24 an hour to start.
Wow.
So it's not a bad career choice for these kids.
Yeah, no kidding. What in a perfect world, as KC was talking about the fact that they've kind of slammed the door on a lot of people coming in the country, how many people could you use like today at Texas Gulf Energy?
If we could go out and bid every job that people are asking us to bid, and we knew we had the manpower,
yep,
my estimate would be we could put 1,000 people to work in the next 6 to 8 months.
Wow.
And 1,000 people represents roughly $100 million in revenue. So it's a big issue. It is a big, big issue. And in 2008, this company actually did do, it had 1,200 people working and did about $112 million in revenue.
Wow.
So it's a big, big issue. And we spent a long time negotiating with the unions to see if we could come up with a contract that would allow us to exist together and allow us to even allow the unions to bid their people into our jobs first. And we got into an easy agreement on the hourly, but then they slapped on this benefits package of $18 to $24, $25 an hour. It's just absurd. You can't afford it.
That's how they collect fees. As a union, that's how they collect dues.
Oh, $10 an hour into the pension plan, and the pension plan is underwater. So that once you execute a union contract, you are now liable for the shortfall in their pension plan.
Whoa!
It is such a horrible deal.
Wait a minute. What? You would be liable if you signed that contract for the difference?
We would be liable.
That depends upon the union. That depends upon
they
the
would.
union.
No, that's not.
That isn't correct, Tim. It depends upon the union and the contract. I do work with MEBA, the Marine Engineers Benevolent Association, and they're 4.5 times overfunded. And
you mean if they're a deficit? I'm talking about the AFL-CIO Construction Trades Union is underwater by billions of dollars.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It depends
that's
on
the union.
Yeah.
That's the union that we deal with. And under the law, once you sign a contract with them, you assume liability for shortfalls in that pension plan based on the percentage of billings you do versus the total. And it has ruined companies. Companies have gone into negative net worth because they've suddenly had to start reserving for deficits in the pension plan. So it's one of the reasons why companies don't like signing up new union contracts.
Well, they can always go to Chicago and Detroit for help. No, I'm sorry.
It's like anything else. You just got to do your homework.
Yeah, actually,
believe it or not,
partner.
Believe it or not, Detroit has the highest benefits factor of any market in the United States for the AFL-CIO construction trades.
What a
the
surprise.
highest one.
Yeah,
That's what happens to them.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So it's unfortunate, and somewhere it all gets sorted out, but for the time being, it is what it is, and we cope with it, and we plan the business the best way that's possible, and the management of the company deals with that every day.
So,
I actually was the person working with I negotiated with the AFL-CIO for roughly 6 months. We just couldn't reach an agreement.
Wow. So now, okay, I guess the union would have a total say on an Exxon or somebody like that for the entire country. You know, even if their projects were in right-to-work states, that wouldn't make any difference in, right?
Exactly. If you sign a union contract in a right-to-work state, you are obligated under the contract to first offer those jobs to union members, and then if there are not union members available to fill them, then you can fill them with non-union members. But the problem with that is then you have a two-wage scale on the same job, and you got one guy that's making an effective $52 or $54 an hour with his benefits, and another one making $28.
Yeah.
It's an invitation for a disaster.
Wow.
Very difficult to manage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess.
It's like getting on a plane that cost you $800 round trip, and the people next to you paid $190.
That's it.
Well, you know, it's fun, Charles. It's funny you mention that because, you know, we used to have some puddle jumpers out in California and Nevada that we used to fly on. I'm not going to name the company, but these are smaller airplanes, and these were guys just basically biding their time, making, I think it was $15 an hour as a pilot.
Right.
You know, in preparation, it was the Delta, you know, part of the Delta system, and you know, once they accumulated a lot of hours doing that, then they would jump to the big Delta. And
right.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's the way it works.
Yeah. And of course, then they get paid whatever they get paid, which was pretty good. So, wow, that's amazing. It's amazing how the effect of the whole union net, if you will, is still there. You know, and this administration is very pro-union. Sure.
He attributes getting reelected to the work of the unions, and they have gotten their payback. You know, the whole NLRB now, the board consists of union-affiliated board members now.
Well,
and
you know, and
that's not going to change.
Going back into that, it was disgraceful what they did with the unions relative to General Motors. I mean, they broke all the rules for first lien holders and
Absolutely.
equipment mortgage bond holders, and instead gave the money to the unions.
That's absolutely true. They actually created new precedents in the bankruptcy code in the GM reorg.
Yeah.
And
But,
is it my Charles? You would probably know this, or Tim, you probably would too. Ally, which is been running television commercials left and right.
Right.
Isn't that the old GMAC?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes.
Now,
Correct.
is it
And
true?
GM was just a matter of the management being terrified of the unions. They just folded like a cheap deck of cards. It was criminal what they did.
Yeah.
But-
It was criminal.
But Ally has not paid back the original money, though. Is that correct?
Of course
From
not.
No, they're still way underwater. Way underwater.
So, wait a minute. So they're leaning on Bank of America and Citi and all the others. And meanwhile, if you want to, I hate to call it a government bank, but it almost is, is just still where it was.
Yep.
It's a good old
And
double
frankly,
standard.
they're doing the same thing with Fannie and Freddie. The dividends aren't going to the preferred holders. Dividends aren't going to the first lien holders. Dividends are going to the Treasury.
Yeah, but in a way, as a staunch financial conservative, I think that's what should happen because the government bailed it out and they ought to get those dividends until they're paid back. But it's not consistent across the board.
No, it's not. And in fact, Fannie and Freddie are really now a monopoly.
Absolutely, they did.
I mean, you
either
can't go
93 or
down-
97% of mortgages.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, go try and go to Google and Google a mortgage company.
Nope, without question. Gentlemen, I unfortunately am about to run out of juice on my phone here in Austin, Texas.
That's okay. Well, that's gonna lead us into Tesla. But speaking of juice, but anyway, hey Timmy, thank you very much for calling, and we'll be talking with you soon.
Thank you very much. I always appreciate the invitation.
Okay, all right. Tim Connolly, Texas Gulf Energy. Boy, it's a good conversation there with Tim whenever he calls in.
Okay, so let me just give you a little update here. The oil is up $2.85.
Yes.
The gold is backed off a little, up 25.40 at 1418.5. The Dow, which was down at 120 and then down only 60, is now down 104 again. And so the S&P, which was down 20 and then down only 13, is down 16 and a quarter. There's really not a lot going on right here. I mean, most of these things are holding on to, what the overnight dictated vis-a-vis both the futures and Europe. Europe closes in about 40 minutes, and I'm going to guess that we will disengage from this, and, we'll see if we can mount any kind of rally. Tesla, which I was short last week, and in fact got stopped out on our 50% rule, is 166.57, up another $2.35. These are new all-time highs.
Yep.
And J.C. Penney is down a mere 2 cents on yesterday afternoon's news of Mr. Ackman selling his entire 18% stake in the company.
And that's a great buy here. JCP has got to be a great buy. Just the basic real estate, the basic locations. It's an opportunity. We put bids in, but I don't think we got filled.
We didn't get filled because the only time that it actually hit our price were in the extended hours, and we're not set up to trade during the extended hours.
It was very interesting, getting back to Tesla, the quote from Alan Baum, Tesla is the Apple of the automotive sector. And, of course, we have one of only two refueling superstations, if you will, for Tesla. One is right here in St. Lucie West. The other one is over in KC's territory, over in Tampa Bay. So, Tesla having a big influence here, to say the least.
Well, the thing with Tesla, aside from the fact that it's kind of a cult stock, and as Mike has mentioned before, tends to trade with the oil.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the point of people relating it as an electric car company is probably incorrect. I mean, you're talking about a car that, as we have mentioned before, Motor Trend considers, the most highly rated car, period. And also, last week they were talking about it. It has gotten the highest score in history on the safety tests. And
Yeah,
so
we have to consider it a renewable. rather than electric.
Right.
Renewable.
But it is, again, the highest rated for safety, as well as the Motor Trend highest rating car, not without any qualification, and that makes it just that much more interesting. And also the fact that in California they've outsold Porsche, Audi, and everyone else in their price range. So that really says a lot for this guy.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, wow, that's great news. Well, speaking of innovators, we have been talking on this show about what we're going to be attempting with the WPSL TV, which is the cord cutters, if you will, I love that terminology now. The Cord Cutters television network, for all intents and purposes. And we already have competition. Of course, we're not on the air yet. And that is going to be from the Chicago White Sox, who yesterday afternoon made the announcement on LinkedIn that there would be a brand new Chicago-based college sports network featuring live programming. And it's going to be, they're really doing it totally different than what we're going to do. We're talking about events, but they're talking about building websites and stuff like that for conferences, which ironically is probably why I got a call yesterday from IMG, which is the biggest programmer of college sports in the world, wanting to know when we're up. Primarily because the White Sox are going to be doing this thing. It's called CampusInsiders.com, and it's digital only, so they're not even going to make the transition to the 60-inch screen, which we will. So, yeah, kind of interesting. It's starting to move, and the cord cutters are the reason why. Kind of interesting. Well, that's Casey's generation.
And frankly, we also have this, mess with CBS. Showtime with Time Warner.
Yeah, well, yeah, and of course, anybody who has Bright House Cable that may be listening around the country, it's a subsidiary of Time Warner, and yes, they're having the CBS problems as well. So
I can't believe, what is this, like 3 weeks already?
Well, you know what? This may be a permanent thing. I mean, you have some networks now saying that they're going to cut off, the satellites. And what was very interesting, I thought, last week was the fact that you had Google approach, and this is amazing, the NFL to get rid of the direct ticket on satellite and just go with Google. So again, you're looking at cord cutters, that this is not going to be your traditional way. And believe me, if that happens with the NFL, other things are going to follow Google, and what you're going to see, there will be no, and I've said this for the last 3 years on this show, satellite television, satellite radio are not long for the world. And if the Google thing works with other formats, kind of like, what's the movie thing? Where you Netflix, yeah. If you put that together with a Netflix type thing, there's no need for cable then. So, I mean,
I got to believe that the Google NFL thing would be fantastic.
It'd be unbelievable. Oh, it would be.
They're not a subscription company. They're an advertising company. So instead of paying $80 a week for an NFL ticket, you probably just have to watch some ads.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. It's a whole different stream of ads, and of course the beauty of Google is that they can sell that nationally and run different ads in Casey's town of Tampa, Charles's town of Boston, and Mike's town of Las Vegas. And that means that they could bill, 300 major cities?
Right.
For one game?
It would be interesting how that affects
and frankly,
stadium
you have a lot of these companies, Samsung in particular, putting out basically internet TVs.
Oh yeah, you bet.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what's going to help us along the way too. I mean, it's like once we finally get up on the air, it's that's the extra added kicker for what we're going to be doing. So, yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, you get cities like Tampa and Jacksonville who can't give away enough seats to fill a stadium. Now,
Right.
if you can watch them on TV, I mean, you might as well play in the parking lot. Nobody.
Well, but the Jacksonville thing, actually, Jacksonville and Tampa are kind of intriguing operations because now all of a sudden Jacksonville is owned by this Pakistani gazillionaire, and they're playing a home game in London. And, of course, Tampa is owned by a family who owns a big soccer team in London as well.
The Glazers, yeah.
So the Glazers. So it's entirely possible that both of those teams, I mean,
We're going to move to Europe.
once we get the jet plane going, they'll be in Europe. I mean, once that, or that tube thing that they've got going, once that happens and that they can be in London in an hour, or maybe 2 hours from LA, then all bets are off. I mean, you're going to have every league around is going to be worldwide. And then you start talking about worldwide rights in a Google situation or for something like that. It's off the charts. Just off the charts.
What's the name of that TV deal that we talked about? I'm trying to remember. Larry King was part of. And
yeah, that was a television.
Arrow or
yeah, something like that. I don't know whatever happened to them, but I haven't heard anything about them since.
Yeah.
But the whole Aereo thing, which was came out of New York City, which basically was taking over-the-air signals from the television networks, network O&Os around the country, owned and operated stations around the country. Needless to say, they've been sued 9 million times, and that's not going to happen. So, yeah, that's changing. But yeah, that Google thing last week, even though it was a tiny article, but boy, did that puppy get traction all over LinkedIn and in a lot of business sites. Obviously, CNBC and Fox Business were all over it. Yeah, that was a very interesting meeting. If that goes somewhere, it's going to be something. Well, we only have about a minute and a half. Charles, what's up next week here?
Not a whole lot. We have our conference call tomorrow.
Yep.
And pretty basically, we're thinking about rolling out an options-only letter that instead of just coming out on Sundays, comes out on Tuesday night and Thursday night also.
Ooh.
But that will absolutely be a paid subscription only.
You bet.
And I'm getting a lot of feedback from people for the text service who think that we should be using a paid Twitter feed.
Hey, there you go.
And so that's something that we're going to look into also.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, we'll talk to all of you guys. Casey over in Tampa, Mike King in Las Vegas, Charles Moskowitz in Boston. Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research. Don't forget, get the newsletter, princetonresearch.com. Don't forget Charles's conference call tomorrow. WPSL Port St. Lucie, WPSL TV, Treasure Coast.